Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into The Wealthy Barber Returns by David Chilton.
Oh, classic.
It's all about getting those little nuggets,
Yeah.
those golden nuggets
Yeah.
of financial wisdom to help you make smarter money choices.
We're going deep.
We are deeper than just basic budgeting tips.
Yeah, we're going to look at like the psychology behind spending
Yeah.
and then practical strategies for saving, investing. We'll even touch on debt.
I'm excited. First, who is David Chilton?
So Chilton brings this really cool blend of expertise and approachability. He's got a background in economics and finance,
Okay.
but he's also known for his humor.
I love it.
Yeah, and common sense approach, which you can definitely see in his writing.
I love that. Finance doesn't have to be boring and scary.
Exactly. It can be fun. And, it's not just us who appreciate his style. He's received praise from people like Ellen Roseman and Pat Foran.
Oh, wow. Big names.
Yeah, which shows you he's credible.
Okay, so he's got the
Yep.
smarts and the personality. Let's get into the content.
Let's do it.
One that really jumped out at me was consumed with consumption.
Ooh.
Yes.
What is that all about?
This is a fascinating look at our tendency to always want more.
Always.
We're just bombarded with messages telling us we need the newest gadgets, the biggest house, the fanciest clothes.
to be happy.
Yeah, to be happy.
It's like this never-ending race.
Yeah, a treadmill of keeping up.
Exactly.
He talks about neuroeconomics to explain this.
Okay.
He says we have two minds at work. The logical executive brain
Mm-hmm.
and then the impulsive lizard brain, which is all about instant gratification.
Oh, the lizard brain.
Got to learn how to tame that lizard brain.
Yeah, because that's the one saying, you deserve those shoes.
Exactly.
Even when my bank account's like, no, you don't.
It's that primal urge for that immediate pleasure that can really mess with our goals.
For sure.
So one thing Chilton talks about is minimizing your exposure to temptation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like he tells a story about a woman who controlled her spending just by avoiding clothing stores.
That sounds simple, but sometimes the simplest solutions are the best.
Avoiding temptation is powerful, but you can't avoid everything. You still got to buy groceries.
Sure.
You still got to buy clothes sometimes.
Right, but in those situations, think about ways to make it harder to overspend.
Okay.
Like, leave those credit cards at home.
Yeah.
Set a strict budget before you go. Write a list and stick to it.
I love that. Being prepared and proactive.
It sets you up for success because so often we give in to that impulse because we haven't thought it through.
Yeah.
Chilton also reminds us that excitement of a new purchase fades over time.
It does.
It's called declining marginal utility,
Ooh, fancy.
which basically means the more we have of something, the less enjoyment we get from each additional unit.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Remember that treadmill you swore you'd use every day?
Oh, gosh. Please don't remind me. It's my expensive clothes rack.
We've all been there. But remembering this can help us avoid making purchases that we'll regret.
Okay, so be mindful.
Be mindful.
Another trap is what Chilton calls the reference group problem.
Yes, comparing ourselves to others,
The worst.
especially when it comes to stuff.
Yeah. Keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly.
And social media doesn't help.
No, it's everyone's highlight reel, making you feel like you're not enough.
Yeah.
It can really hurt us financially.
So what can we do?
Chilton says, cultivate gratitude. Appreciate what you already have.
Okay.
Someone out there is likely envious of what you have,
That's a good point.
even if you don't realize it.
It's about shifting your perspective.
Yeah.
So how do we actually curb
Yeah.
those spending urges?
Chilton suggests a simple but powerful phrase.
I'm listening.
I can't afford it.
Okay, so simple.
He tells a story about a guy named Mark who was struggling with his spending. This simple phrase became his mantra. It changed his financial life,
Wow.
helped him break free from that pressure to keep up appearances.
Yeah, and just live within your means.
Exactly.
I never thought about it that way. It's not about being cheap. It's about honesty and boundaries.
Exactly. It takes away that guilt and embarrassment we might feel
Okay.
when trying to decline an invitation or resist a purchase.
You don't have to make excuses.
Yeah, it's a polite way to say no without feeling like you have to explain yourself.
Yeah, I love that. It's simple and powerful. You have the right to say no to things that don't align with your goals.
Absolutely.
You know, I want to talk about the Diderot effect.
Ooh, yes.
I think we can all relate. What is it?
It's this idea that one purchase can often lead to a bunch of other purchases.
It's like a domino effect.
Like dominoes. He uses the example of buying a new couch.
Okay.
Suddenly you need new pillows.
Oh, yeah.
A new rug, maybe even a new coffee table.
I've been there. I did my bathroom.
Yeah.
And then it became the kitchen, too.
That's the Diderot effect in action.
It's a slippery slope.
Especially with renovations, those while we're at it moments can get expensive.
Before you know it,
Yeah.
you're blowing your budget.
Exactly.
So it's about being mindful
Yeah.
of the ripple effects of our purchases.
Right.
Okay.
Now, what about those little pieces of plastic
Cool.
credit cards?
Credit cards.
Chilton calls them anesthesia for spending
Why?
because they numb the pain of handing over cash. It's so much easier to swipe a card.
Oh, it's so true. Than to count out bills.
Yeah, and you don't feel it as much.
I don't. When I use my credit card,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel as real.
Exactly. It's easy to overspend when you don't see the money leaving your hand.
Okay.
He even suggests switching to a cash-based system when you can.
So you feel it more.
You feel it.
That's a good tip.
He tells a story about his own sister. She had a spending problem. The solution, she cut up her credit cards.
Oh, wow.
Drastic. But it worked.
So finding strategies that work for you, if that means cutting up your credit cards, do it.
Now, what about those tempting lines of credit?
Oh, yeah. They seem convenient.
They do, but dangerous.
They can be. He
Yeah.
compares them to giant credit cards.
With lower interest rates and this illusion of affordability. Those interest-only payments are tempting. They make you feel like you're getting away with something.
Free money.
Yeah.
Until it's not.
Right. He shares a story about a woman who treated her line of credit like a second income.
Oh, no.
She kept racking up debt, not understanding the consequences.
So when are lines of credit good? And when should we be wary?
They can be helpful for things like consolidating higher interest debt or maybe financing investments. But the key is to use them strategically.
Strategically.
Don't let those bank offers control your spending.
Okay.
He tells a story about a woman who wanted to consolidate her credit card debt. She met with a loan officer who, instead of helping her manage her debt,
Oh, no.
approved her for a huge line of credit.
Oh, no. Way more than she needed.
Way more.
They were setting her up to fail.
Yeah.
It's a reminder to be careful with easy credit
Yeah.
and make decisions based on your needs, not what the lender says you can afford.
Right.
So
Yeah.
know your limits, stick to a plan.
Know your limit.
What about good debt versus bad debt?
Chilton challenges those traditional definitions. It's
Okay.
not just about whether the interest is tax deductible.
So what is it about?
It's about the purpose of the debt and if it's actually helping you in the long run.
Okay.
He tells a story about a couple who used a small line of credit as a forced savings program.
Interesting.
They set a limit and wouldn't borrow more until they had paid back the balance.
Who would flip the script?
It did.
Their spending became a savings incentive.
They had to pay for their splurges
Right.
by diligently saving.
So they gamified it.
They did. It's a clever way to combine instant and delayed gratification.
Okay, that's a good strategy.
So distinguish between prudent debt, which has a purpose, and reckless debt.
Okay, that makes sense. Now the big question,
Hit me.
how much should we save for retirement?
It's the big question.
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer. Chilton acknowledges there are lots of factors.
No, like
Retirement age, life expectancy,
taxes.
tax rates, inflation, all of that.
So many things.
Yep.
But he gives a general guideline.
Yeah.
What is it?
Aim to save 10% to 15% of your gross income.
Okay, that's a lot.
It is.
Any tips?
Even small cuts in spending can make a difference over time.
Okay, small changes add up.
They do.
What about inheritances?
It's tempting to think about.
It is, but Chilton says,
Don't rely on them. There are too many unknowns.
like what?
When will you inherit? How much? What if your loved ones have other plans?
My parents are spending their retirement money on travel.
Exactly. So think of inheritances as bonuses.
Okay, not guaranteed.
Create a plan based on your own saving.
That's a good reality check.
Ah.
Let's talk about spending summaries. I have to say, I've always been skeptical.
Chilton was too.
Oh, really?
But he found that diligently tracking expenses has a couple of big benefits.
Like what?
First, it shows you those spending patterns that we often overlook.
Like my daily latte?
Exactly, those impulse buys.
Out of sight, out of mind.
The second benefit is it helps you prioritize, remember those joy units, making sure you're getting the most happiness. When you see where your money's going, you can identify areas to cut back.
Yeah.
And redirect to things that bring you more joy.
So it's about being intentional
Yeah.
in aligning with your values.
Exactly.
I love that. Efficient spending, that's my new thing.
Efficient spend.
Let's move on to investing.
Okay.
I always feel lost with the stock market.
Chilton dedicates a good chunk of the book to demystifying investing. He starts by explaining an index,
Okay.
basically a single number that represents the performance of a group of assets.
Like stocks.
Yeah, like the S&P 500,
Right.
which tracks 500 of the largest U.S. companies.
It was like a snapshot of the market.
Exactly.
Got it.
Then he introduces index funds, which are baskets of stocks that aim to mirror a specific index.
So you're investing in the market overall.
Precisely. It takes the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
And they tend to have lower fees.
Lower fees.
Yeah, meaning more of your money stays invested.
That sounds good.
He dives into the math behind market returns,
Ooh, math. I'm scared.
explaining that all investors, collectively, must match the market return.
Before fees.
Before fees.
Wait, so even the best investors
Hmm.
can't beat the market.
It's a mathematical certainty.
Wow.
Imagine the market as a giant pie. Some investors get bigger slices, but the total pie is the market return, so minimize those fees that eat away at your slice.
I love that analogy. It makes it so clear. So if everyone's basically matching the market, why would anyone invest in anything else?
Many people, even pros, believe they can beat the market, pick those winning stocks.
But can you actually do that consistently?
It's possible, but so difficult. Even Chilton, who used to believe he could, admits he was wrong.
Oh.
He found that past performance isn't a reliable predictor.
So you're basically gambling on someone's ability to predict the future and paying high fees for it.
You got it.
Unless you have strong evidence otherwise.
Yeah.
Stick with those low-cost index funds.
It's usually the smarter bet.
That makes sense.
Chilton even shares a story about when he saw teachers taking out loans.
Oh, no. To invest in mutual funds.
He saw it as a market indicator.
What happened?
Shortly after, the market crashed.
Ouch.
So borrowing to invest is risky.
Especially if you're not prepared for those ups and downs.
So it's a good reminder that investing should be a long-term game.
Okay.
Ride out those waves.
Be patient.
Be patient.
So patience and discipline.
He stresses time diversification. The longer you invest, the better your chances.
It's like the tortoise and the hare.
Exactly.
Slow and steady.
Wins the race.
Okay, so before we move on, I want to go back to money is time.
Ooh, yes.
That was so interesting.
It's a real perspective shift. Instead of looking at the price tag, think about how many hours you have to work
okay.
to earn the money for that item. Suddenly, that $5 latte doesn't seem as appealing.
It cost me an hour of my life.
Right. It makes you think, is this purchase worth the effort and sacrifice to earn that money?
It's about aligning your spending with your values.
You got it. Being mindful of how you spend your time.
This is so insightful. I'm already feeling more empowered.
That's great to hear. And we've only just begun.
Can't wait to dive deeper.
So we've talked about ways to control spending
For sure.
and make smarter choices.
Yeah, like,
I can't afford it. And viewing purchases in terms of hours worked.
game changers.
But there's one thing Chilton emphasizes that I think needs its own spotlight.
Okay, tell me.
Pay yourself first.
I've heard that before.
You probably have.
But he really makes it important.
He does.
Logically, it makes sense. But putting it into practice is hard.
It can be. The trick is to treat savings like any other expense.
Like rent.
Yeah, or utilities.
Non-negotiables.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Set up automatic transfers each month.
Oh, I like that. So the money's gone before you can spend it.
It's gone.
I love that.
And Chilton says this is so important now because easy credit makes it so tempting
To overspend.
to overspend. So we're fighting fire with fire.
Okay. Combating spending with proactive saving.
You got it.
Okay, let's go back to investing. We talked about index funds. But what about those actively managed funds?
Why do people still like those? With the higher fees. It comes down to belief
Belief in what?
that a skilled manager can beat the market.
Okay, so they're paying more
Mm.
for that potential.
Exactly. But Chilton points out it's risky. He used to think he could pick winning funds. He learned the hard way that it's tough to outperform the market consistently.
He said past performance isn't a predictor, right?
He did.
So you're gambling on,
Yes.
on someone's crystal ball
Yeah.
and paying high fees.
Exactly.
So unless you have really strong evidence, it's better to stick with those index funds.
Usually the smarter bet.
Makes sense.
He even tells this story about seeing teachers taking out loans
Oh, no.
to invest in
Oh,
mutual
no.
funds. He thought it was a market indicator.
Why?
Like people were overconfident.
Oh, no. What happened?
The market crashed.
Ouch.
Borrowing to invest is risky.
For sure.
You have to be prepared for those ups and downs.
Okay, so investing is a long game.
A marathon, not a sprint.
Patience.
Beige.
We need a lot of patience.
He talks about time diversification.
What's that?
The longer you're in the market, the more time you have to ride those waves.
The tortoise and the hare.
Exactly.
Slow and steady.
Now, how do you choose the right index funds?
Yeah, there are so many.
You have to know your risk tolerance. How much volatility can you stomach?
Ooh, that's a good question. In theory, I can handle a lot. But in reality, if I see my portfolio drop 10%, I might panic.
It's emotional, so he says start conservative.
Okay. And slowly increase risk as you get comfortable.
Dip your toes in.
Don't jump in head first.
And diversify.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't put everything in one basket.
Spread it around stocks, bonds, different regions of the world.
So not just the stock market, but globally too.
That's right. It's all about spreading the risk.
Okay.
Now, have you heard of spreads?
Spreads.
One of the silent killers of returns.
Ooh, scary. Tell me more.
They're basically the difference between the buying and selling price.
Okay.
When you buy a stock, you pay a bit more than what someone's selling for. When you sell,
Yeah.
you get a bit less than someone's willing to pay.
So you're losing money on both ends.
Exactly. It might seem small, but those spreads add up.
Especially if you're trading a live
Example.
death by 1,000 cuts.
And many people don't even realize it's happening.
Oh, no.
Children's advice. Minimize trading. The more you trade, the more you're hit by spreads.
So buy and hold.
Buy and hold. Let those long-term investments grow. Patience and discipline are key.
Okay, I'm writing this down. Let's talk about RRSPs versus TFSAs.
Oh, the battle of the abbreviations?
Who wins?
No simple answer. It depends
Top
on your
rates,
situation.
So no clear winner.
Not without looking at the specifics, but let's break it down.
Okay.
RRSPs, contributions are tax deductible.
Okay.
So you get a break up front. But withdrawals and retirement are taxable.
So you're delaying the taxes.
Right. With TFSAs, contributions aren't deductible, but withdrawals are tax-free.
So you pay taxes now, but not later.
Exactly.
So it's about timing those tax benefits.
Yeah, and tax rate changes and government benefits can also factor in.
This is where I get lost.
It's complicated.
Any advice?
Talk to a financial advisor to figure out the best strategy for you.
Yeah.
But here are some general guidelines.
Okay, I'm listening.
If you think your tax rate will be lower in retirement, an RRSP might be better.
So if you're in a high bracket now and expect to be lower later.
Exactly. If you expect your rate to be higher later, a TFSA might be better.
So you avoid paying taxes when your income is higher.
You got it. And sometimes the best approach is to use both.
So diversify your saving strategy.
Exactly.
Let's talk about life insurance.
Not the most fun topic, but important.
Especially if people depend on you.
Right. Chilton likes term life insurance.
What's that?
It covers you for a specific period. If you pass away during that time, your beneficiaries get a payout.
Okay.
If not, the policy expires.
Pretty straightforward. Why does he like that one?
He thinks it's the most cost-effective. Other types, like whole life or universal life, have a savings or investment component. Those often have higher fees and might not be as tax efficient.
Okay, so keep those things separate.
That's what he thinks. Term life insurance gives you protection without the added complexity.
Simple and affordable.
Exactly.
Now, Chilton says to get professional advice,
He does.
but finding a good advisor can be hard.
It can.
How do we even start?
He says look for a few key things.
Like what?
Good communication,
Okay.
a lifelong learner,
Yeah.
and most importantly, focused on building a solid financial plan.
Not chasing hot stocks.
Right. Someone who's guiding you.
Yeah. Not just trying to make a quick buck.
And understand how they're compensated.
Yep.
Commissions or fees, are their incentives aligned with yours?
So find someone you trust,
Exactly.
someone transparent, who has your best interest at heart.
Ask questions. A good advisor will answer them.
Okay. They should be a partner.
A partner in your journey.
Okay, going back to retirement planning.
Mm-hmm.
Any other insights from Chilton?
He really emphasizes starting early.
Okay.
Compounding makes a huge difference.
Time's our friend.
It is. Even small amounts saved early will grow significantly over time. If you started late, it's not too late. You might need to save more,
Okay.
but take action. Be consistent.
So be realistic about your goals.
Be realistic.
Now, saving for kids' education versus our own retirement.
A tough one.
It is. How do we prioritize?
Chilton says there are no easy answers. Consider your needs and your kids' aspirations.
Find a balance.
A balance.
Okay.
RESPs are great. Those grants can really help. But don't sacrifice your own retirement.
I hear that. You can't help your kids if you're struggling yourself.
Right.
Explore other options.
Scholarships, grants, part-time work. and get those grandparents involved.
Oh, good idea.
They love to help.
What about emergency funds?
I know, they're important.
But it's hard to build one up.
Chilton struggled with this too.
He did.
He used to say, use a line of credit instead of cash.
But that doesn't sound like a good idea.
He changed his mind. He realized most people aren't disciplined enough to use credit responsibly in an emergency.
It's too tempting to spend it.
It is. So now he recommends cash.
Cash is king.
6 to 9 months of living expenses.
That's a lot.
It is. But it protects you from those unexpected events.
Like what?
Job loss, illness, home repairs.
Yeah, those big things.
It gives you peace of mind, knowing you can handle those things without going into debt.
It's a safety net.
Exactly. Keep it separate from your other savings.
No dipping into it.
For vacations or new cars.
Only real emergencies.
Only emergencies.
Okay.
And the best way to rely less on it is to have good financial habits.
So good habits are the best safety net.
They are.
Okay, what's this? Illusion of wealth.
It's the idea that people feel wealthier than they really are,
Okay.
often because of rising home values.
They see their home as a safety net.
But there's a catch.
What's that?
A house is valuable, but it's a use asset.
What's that mean?
You live in it, but you can't easily turn it into cash.
Unless you sell it.
Right. Chilton says don't rely on home equity for retirement,
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
even if it seems valuable. And be careful with reverse mortgages.
Why?
They let seniors tap into home equity without selling,
Okay.
but the interest can build up, and it reduces your inheritance.
So weigh the pros and cons.
Weigh them. Reverse mortgages should be a last resort.
Not the first option.
Exactly.
Okay, I will revisit that story about the farmer.
Oh, yeah. With the simple financial plan.
It was so inspiring.
It was.
What were the key takeaways?
Prioritize the fundamentals.
Like that.
Max out your RSP. Use a spousal RSP. Invest in low-cost index funds.
Simple stuff.
He kept it simple.
Wow.
Consistent. Focus on the long term.
And it worked.
It did.
Discipline and patience.
Are powerful.
No need to overthink it.
No need to get fancy.
Just stick to the plan.
Stick to the plan. Let time do its thing.
Slow and steady.
Sound financial planning doesn't have to be complicated. It's common sense and good habits. And living within your means. Don't get in your own way.
What does that mean?
Avoid those self-sabotaging behaviors.
Right.
Be mindful of your spending. Make choices that support your goals. Don't let emotions drive your decisions.
So take control.
Take control. The Wealthy Barber Returns is full of these insights. Anyone can achieve financial success.
If they're willing to put in the work.
Exactly.
I'm feeling inspired.
Good.
Anything else before we wrap up?
We've covered a lot,
We have.
but there are a few more things.
Tell me.
He says, don't rely on economic forecasts.
Why not?
They're unreliable.
So don't base your investments on predictions.
Right. Think for yourself, do your research, focus on the fundamentals.
Don't get caught up in the hype.
Or the fear,
Right, fear.
diversify geographically too,
Right.
not just across different types of investments.
So don't just stick to your home country.
Right.
Invest globally.
Spread the risk.
Yeah.
He also talks about the cost of living in big cities.
It's expensive.
It is. It's hard to save when so much goes to housing.
It is.
So prioritize saving, even small amounts.
Small steps.
Small steps lead to big results.
Okay, what about those? Anecdotes and funny stories.
Oh, he has some great ones.
Tell me one.
Like the time he was on a flight.
Okay. And saw a man reviewing his financials.
He's really focused.
Okay. But what was funny,
The man had his home valued at only $100,000.
that's weird for Toronto.
No, right, where houses are expensive.
Why would he do that?
He didn't consider his home equity as part of his investments.
Oh, wow.
His house was just a place to live.
Not an investment.
He was separating emotion from finances.
That's interesting.
Chilton admired that. It's a reminder to be objective.
Okay.
Any other stories?
Yeah, tell me the other one.
He talks about owning a racehorse named Dash.
A racehorse. Okay. Sounds like trouble.
Dash was not known for his speed.
Oh, no.
He was actually very slow.
Oh, that's funny. I bet that was disappointing.
It was. But Chilton finds humor in it.
Yeah. Don't take yourself too seriously.
Exactly.
Okay, so wrapping up, what's your biggest takeaway?
That's a good question. I think the main message is financial success is possible for anyone who follows those basic principles.
What are they again?
Simplicity, consistency, discipline. Don't overcomplicate things. Make smart choices. Be patient. Avoid those common pitfalls.
So take control.
Take control and build a future you feel good about.
I love that.
And Chilton makes it fun
He does.
with his humor and stories.
Yeah, he does. I think that sums it up perfectly. It's not just a finance book, it's a life book.
Yeah.
It's about choices,
Yeah.
aligning with our values, leading to contentment.
Absolutely. It's not about deprivation. It's about making conscious decisions.
Yeah, for a richer life, financially and emotionally.
Well said.
So for our listeners who want to take control, what's our final advice?
Explore the Wealthy Barber Returns more. See how it can impact you. It's packed with tips, stories, and humor to keep you going.
And remember, it's never too late to start.
Absolutely. Whether you're just starting or fine-tuning your plan, Chilton's wisdom can help.
I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about. I feel more confident now to make better money choices.
That's great. Remember, it's a
No,
journey,
not a destination.
not a destination.
We learned about the lizard brain, saying I can't afford it, and thinking in hours worked.
Powerful stuff.
We explored investing, RSPs, TFSAs, and index funds.
Demystified those.
Yes, we did. We've talked about life insurance and emergency funds.
Important, but not always fun. But through it all, financial planning doesn't have to be scary. It's small steps, consistent effort, building a solid foundation,
For a good future.
a future you can feel good about.
Chilton's book is the map,
Yeah.
and this deep dive hopefully gives you the tools
Yeah, the tools and the
to
motivation.
start building
Uh-huh.
that brighter financial future.
So thank you for joining us
Yes, thank you for listening on this journey.
through the Wealthy Barber Returns.
Pick up the book, explore it, and see how it can change your relationship with money,
Until next time, knowledge is power.
especially with your finances.
Keep learning, keep growing,
Keep learning and growing.
and watch out for those spending temptations.
Happy saving
Happy saving.
and smart spending.
We'll see ya on our next deep dive.